For your inspiration, you read that you were inspired by Amélie Poulain.
Yeah.
And what is for you the differences and the?
Well, I mean, Amélie wasn't the inspiration for the film, but there are clearly, I can see why people think of Amélie, because you know, it's about a young girl, and it's about a young girl who's trying to find her way in the world, and they actually look quite similar, and then obviously stylistically I don't think there are very many films that have, I mean, Amélie is much, I think, a lot more stylized than my film, but clearly there are fantastical elements in Amélie and there are fantastical elements in my film. I said this morning to someone who asked the same question, I said, when I wrote the film, it was very real. It wasn't on paper, it wasn't fantastical, it wasn't about magic realism, it wasn't about any of those things. But then when I started the role as the director, because it's such an enclosed film, I wanted to try and create a world that you thought, is it real or isn't it real? So, and I think there is the similarity, because what I wanted to do was to try and create something that felt like it had some magic to it, because if it had some magic, then it would lift the story above just being about a girl in an apartment in London. Sorry, long answer.
No, that's good. How did you choose your main actress?
How did I feel?
No, how did you choose the main actress?
Jessica, very early in the process, Jessica came for a meeting with me, and she had a very, very good understanding, I think, of the story, and she had a very good understanding about what she wanted to do with the role of Bella. And I just felt, you know, it's such a personal film that it was very obvious when you meet the person that it's like, it's you. So it was her.
You don't have to explain.
No.
Your script is clearly a tale that tells the story of a girl that wants to write a tale. On which tale did you base your story?
That's a good question. Well, originally the story didn't even involve a book, so it wasn't until about the third draft of the script that I wanted to, because I thought if I create the story, it creates something that becomes a fairy story, and then so it becomes the story within the story. But in a way, the story is about her, and the book is about her. So it felt like it was a really good vehicle to take the film into the genre I wanted it to be in. That's kind of where it came from. And then the story, in subsequent drafts, I just worked on what the story was and the whole idea of Luna, and Luna's her. So it's
Colors are very important, as well as music. How did you compose them?
Well, I have to say we had a wonderful Anna Keating, who was the composer for the film, who I think probably had the toughest time out of anyone, because I was so specifically knew what I wanted the music to be, and I kind of I always like films where there's a sort of body of music that you recognize, that every time you come back to that music, you feel like it's like an anchor that you go, oh, it's this thing. And then, but I always feel that I gave Anne such a hard time, because I wanted her to start when I started the edit, because I wanted some music to cut to. And actually the music was never right until literally when we locked the picture and we were doing the grade and we were doing the whole thing. So it's music actually weirdly, I think, became probably the most important piece of post-production we did, because eventually, until the music was right, it never knitted the whole film together. And then when it was right, I knew the moment it was right, we were like, boom, it's done.
And what about the colors? Was it important to have bright colors?
Incredibly important, yeah. I mean, we designed, myself and Mike Ely, who's the cinematographer, and Alex, who was the production designer, we very, very early on in the conversation, we designed everything around a color palette so that every color was there for a reason. We either saturated or desaturated the color. So it was one of those things, though. It wasn't guesswork. We planned it because we were in such restricted spaces that color took on a very important theme in the film. And the other thing was that the color is what I think, as well as the idea of magic realism or fantasy, is what lifts the film out of being just everyday to being something slightly different, hopefully.
What about the English botanic garden and the botanic vocabulary also? Were you helped by a botanic expert?
No, it was very odd. When I started writing the film, a friend of mine went out and she bought me a book, which became the story of in a funny way, became the story of the book that she received from Alfie, because she found this book and it was published in like 1938, and I knew nothing about gardening, so I read this book, and then I thought I better kind of understand about gardening, and now I'm fanatical about gardening. I love gardens, so the whole thing about the Latin names and the whole thing was just the further I got into it, the more I knew, and then I loved the language. The language is so beautiful. It's amazing. So no, that was just me.
So now you're keen on gardening?
Oh, yeah. I absolutely love gardening. And in fact, I was just been in Los Angeles shooting a TV show, and I got back, and my wife said, "Oh, we're going to maybe we'll try and build something at like a summer house at the end of the garden." And I was like, okay. And then so now it's become this whole. We're going to redesign the whole garden, so I'm really excited. So,
did she have a word on photography on your film?
She did, yeah. She came and did the special photograph. She came and did, and yeah. She always do whatever I do. She comes and shoots the stills. So,
has your stepfather seen your film?
Yes, he's seen it. I think he's probably seen it about 5 times so far.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
You really appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, he's such a great supporter of whatever we do, but he's like your harshest critic. I mean, if he doesn't like it, he'll tell you straight away. So it's always interesting to show him, because he sees so many things, and he has such a great sense of what he likes and what he doesn't like, that I'm always kind of like, so yeah, it's always great when he likes what you do.
And was he harsh, or was he?
Yeah, he loved it. He
loved it.
Yeah, he loved the film. Yeah.
You didn't have in mind to use his music?
No, I did my first film. He gave me a track that we used as the outro for the film. I never asked him. He came and said, "Do you want to use a piece of music?" But I think the difficulty is, it's like, you can't just ask, can I use this? So sometimes I'm sure he kind of suggests things, but I'd only ever wait for him to suggest it. I'd never ask him. I don't know.
I have one question, because your film is so positive. You choose the tale, you choose the charm, you choose the magic is everywhere.
Thank you.
Beauty, positive feelings, and not so unhappy ending.
No.
My question is it your universe, or was it your universe when you were a child?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's the first script I ever wrote, so it's so I don't know, but I think for script writers, I think maybe sometimes the first thing they ever write, because it's the only thing you know how to write about is you, that there are elements of Bella's character that are me, and also I think there's that thing of, like, when you're growing up, that you're constantly trying to find people who will come and believe in you, and then suddenly when they believe in you, what you believe in isn't so stupid anymore, and suddenly you realize that you think, oh my God. And it's amazing how quickly someone can fill you with the confidence you never had. You thought, you're stupid, I don't know how to do this, I don't So yeah, I think this film probably much more than the other films that I've written is. I think she's much more autobiographical just in who she is. I mean, you know, it's plenty of other things that, you know, you do drama, they're never strictly autobiographical, but there's big elements of me in her. Yeah.
Which ones?
I have OCD. I'm a, you know, and you know, I think when I was a child, all I wanted to do is be a film director. That's what I wanted to do. And when I was a kid, I used to go and watch the television, and my parents who weren't creative people and my sisters who weren't creative people, I didn't come from a creative place. I was born just outside Liverpool, and no one wrote films and directed films. But I thought I just want to escape, and I want to write films and direct films. And then as you go through your life, you finally find someone who goes, yeah, okay, and you think, oh my God, I'm not crazy, you know. So I think there's probably big elements of that bit of my life that are in her.
And could your next film be something like a dark film? That's something.
Yeah, well, I just finished shooting a show for Studio Plus in Paris, which is like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's the most. It's completely different. And then we're hoping to do a movie in March in probably Latvia or Helsinki, which is a very dark, very, very dark. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful film, and it has a beautiful message, but it's dark, much darker. I mean, yeah, weirdly, I kind of like dark things. So this film was like an odd, slightly eccentric thing that I just wrote, and you know. But yeah, it's not what I do all the time.
I have one question.
Sure.
Is it the guy she loves? Is it true that he has two twins, or is he lying?
Is it true that he has twins?
Well, yeah. When she sees him with another girl, is it him? Or?
Oh no! He is triplets.
Yeah, it's really
There's three
triplets.
of them. Yeah, it's true. It's true. So he says it's interesting because it's you have to. It's easy to miss it because when she goes to his work, you know, the warehouse, and he flies the bird, and he says, "Oh, my parents are dead," because like Bella, they share the idea that they've lost. But then he says, "But I have I have these two brothers. I have George and I have blah blah blah." And then at the end, then she thinks he's with someone else. He's like, "No, that's George." It's like, and then you realise she said, "You're twins," and he says, "No, triplets. We're all born within 7 minutes of each other."
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
I got this part, but my Mister thought that he was lying, so I wanted to be
Oh
sure.
no! He's not lying. He's not lying.
So thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Good film.
Yeah,
Thank you.
hope you get a prize.